Hello, my name is Georgina and this is my documentary on the history of film noir. I shall be investigating what film noir is and how it can be identified within film. Let's start by looking at its definition. So what is film noir? Film noir translates from French as black film, sometimes known as film of the night, and is known as a style or genre of cinematographic film, easily identified by its dark themes and moods, including pessimism, a tendency to see the worst aspect of things or believe that the worst will happen, fatalism, the belief that all events are predetermined and therefore inevitable,
your future is all used up,
and menace, a personal thing that is likely to cause harm, a threat, or danger. The term is used to describe Hollywood crime dramas that predominantly highlight cynical attitudes and sexual motivation, alongside these dark moods of fatalism and pessimism, supported by a dark and gloomy mise-en-scene.
My baby shot me down.
The period in which classic film noir is typically said to have stretched from begins in the 1940s, continuing to the late 1950s, and reflects on the mood of pessimism produced during and after World War II. Movie audiences responded to this new, adult-orientated and austere type of film, as did many writers, directors, cameramen and actors who are keen to bring a more mature feel to Hollywood film. Although directors did not set out to create film noir, they were simply following the themes of that time. It was only known as film noir later on, or was labelled afterwards by critics. The term was first applied by Nino Frank in 1946, but was not recognised by many critics as film noir until the 1970s. Previously, film noir was referred to as melodramas. Nino noticed that these films all shared similar themes and features, making them belong to a grouped genre, which he titled film noir. Typically American crime dramas or psychological thrillers, film noirs has a number of common themes and plot devices, and many share distinctive visual elements. Many of the stories and attitudes of classic noir were drawn from American hardball school of crime fiction, a tough, unsentimental style of American crime writing that brought a new tone of earthy realism or naturalism to the field of detective fiction, brought into the cinematic scene at the same time as the Great Depression. Here are some examples of classic film noir. The Big Sleep, 1946. The name itself refers to a very prominent mood of fatalism.
Over here, Canino.
Double Indemnity, 1944, which is defined as the provision for payment of double the face amount of an insurance policy under certain conditions, for example when death occurs as a result of an accident. So more very prominent themes of fatalism.
Till a while ago, that is. Yeah, I killed him. I killed him for money and for a woman.
I can't stand it anymore. What if they do hang me?
They're not going to hang you, baby.
It's better than going on this way.
They're not going to hang you. Because you're going to do it and I'm going to help you.
Yes, from the moment they met, it was murder.
The Killers, 1946. Again, here are some more prominent moods of fatalism from the name itself. Death is very prominent in these films, as they reflect the dark attitudes left behind from the war.
you touch me and you won't live till morning.
Now I'm going to be looking deeper into some of the trademarks associated with film noir. The plots, dark or serious themes, femme fatale and sexual immorality, fatalism and confined spaces, non-linear narrative and voiceover from the protagonist, low-key lighting and shadows. Film noir is easily identifiable through the use of these common trademarks, but film noir does not need to have all these qualities to fit into this style. Many prefer to say that film noir is more of a collection of ideas that share a similar theme, rather than a genre. Whether film noir qualifies as a distinct genre is a matter of ongoing debate. This list of trademarks is more a style of filmmaking, not a tick list of what a film must contain to be considered a film noir. It is more about the moods and mise-en-scene that makes a film fit into this style. The plots, dark or serious themes. The plots are often quite complex and the usually innocent hero is caught up in a web of intrigue that he doesn't fully understand, possibly woven by the femme fatale. Characters are often conflicted anti-heroes trapped in a difficult situation and making choices out of desperation or moral systems. There is a point in many film noirs where a character crosses a line and has to continue right to the end and accept this theme of fatalism. The anti-hero, an insurance representative, lets himself become persuaded into a murder/insurance fraud, led by a femme fatale, to kill her husband in the hope that they'll live happily ever after together with the money. They vow that once the crime is committed, they are straight down the line to the end together and the last stop is the cemetery.
He says when two people commit a murder, it's sort of like they're riding on a trolley car together. One can't get off without the other. They're stuck with each other. And they have to go on riding together clear to the end of the line. The last stop is a cemetery.
This highlights a prominent theme of fatalism within film noir. They both know that the only way out of this situation once they've committed the crime is ultimately death. Femme fatale and sexual immorality. Femme fatale refers to an attractive and seductive woman within the plot, especially one who will ultimately cause distress to a man who becomes involved with her. This provocative scene shows the femme fatale covered only by her towel at the top of the balcony looking down at the insurance representative. The camera angle looking up at her suggests that she has power over him and foreshadows to her enticing him into committing murder for her, leading him into a messy ending. She is controlling him with her body, seen as sexually immoral and wrong, but in the case of getting rid of your annoying husband and getting money for it, very useful. In this clip of The Killers, a shadow is cast over half of the woman's face to give a seductive sense of mystery to her character. She is a shady character, as suggested by the lighting, and despite her attractiveness is someone to avoid if you want to stay out of trouble. This clip shows a subliminal joke about a man putting a prostitute on his tab when talking to the detective. This highlights sexual immorality again. He didn't talk about the woman directly because it is socially looked down upon.
Tonight? Tomorrow morning would suit me better. There's a very good osteopath in town I'd like to see before I leave.
Osteopath? Well, just don't put her on the expense account.
Fatalism and confined spaces. Fatalism, as mentioned before, refers to the belief that the worst will happen and to view the worst aspect of things. It's a very pessimistic view that links in tightly with a strong sense of foreboding included in the plots and attitudes of the characters within many film noirs. This clip shows the two killers in the diner. A low ceiling is used to help convey a feeling of claustrophobia, which ties in nicely to the presence of fatalism within many film noir movies. This sense of being trapped hints the idea that the victim has no way out and is going to die now that they have crossed the line. In this clip from The Killers, the man on the bed accepts his fate and surrenders to the theme of fatalism. He knows that whatever he does, he is going to die, so he might as well just stay in bed and accept his fate.
There's nothing I can do about it.
Non-linear narrative and voiceover from the protagonist. Non-linear narrative refers to a narrative of a story where events are portrayed, for example, out of chronological order, or in other ways where the narrative does not follow the direct causality pattern of the events featured in the plot. In many cases of film noir, the ending is shown at the start to grab the attention of the audience, and then the narrative switches to flashbacks of what happened up to the start of the film. It can also be used to suggest confusion as the character looks back at what happened in previous events for clarification. The protagonist is the leading character or one of the major characters in a play, film, novel, etc. It is common for the protagonist to do a voiceover whilst the film follows this non-linear narrative, in a style that makes it seem like he is confessing his story to a detective, which in many cases of film noir he is. Low-key lighting and shadows. Low-key lighting, as opposed to high-key, refers to having or producing uniformly dark tones with stark areas of contrast in a photograph or film, rooted from German expressionism cinematography. This usually involves one light source that casts a shadow across a frame, creating a contrast between light and dark, symbolising good and bad, which in many cases can highlight the attitudes of the characters within the film. The areas associated with low-key black and white visual style that commonly includes very dark areas and the use of shadows and contrast to help portray a sinister mood and visually forebode the character's personality and actions. Many lights are used to film noir films, often making the sets lighter than other film sets so that the contrast can be seen more clearly, as most classic noirs were filmed in black and white. This shows the light coming through the blinds on the man's face, giving the illusion of prison bars, foreshadowing the fatalism that he must face now that he's committed such a crime. He can either go to prison or accept his fate of death he vowed at the start, till the end of the line. In the opening scene of The Killers, the light source is coming from behind the diner. This harsh contrast between the light and shadows produces a silhouette of a man in a hat and long coat. Very stereotypical film noir. This is reminiscent of the opening titles A Double Indemnity. This silhouette gives a great sense of mystery and hints to the theme of fatalism, as this man is going to close the fate of Ole, who is conveniently waiting in his bed for them to come and kill him. Some film noirs were not filmed in black and white, such as neo-noir, The Usual Suspects, which we'll talk a little more about later. Despite the presence of colour, the lighting is still very gloomy and follows the low-key style, whilst the colour in the film is desaturated and gloomy. Neo-noir. Film noir is still a common style of filmmaking to this very day, and a new age of film noir has risen, named neo-noir. Neo-noir refers to modern motion pictures that prominently use the elements of film noir, but with updated themes, content, style, visual elements or media that were absent in the classic film noirs of the 1940s and 1950s period. Yet it was not until after 1970 that film critics began to consider neo-noir as a separate genre by its own definition. The Usual Suspects, 1995. A sense of fatalism is reduced from the only survivor of a crime mystery on a boat. So he tells his story to a detective. The lighting and colouring of the film is very noir, despite it being in colour, and the themes addressed are iconic to the classic style but with modern twists. In both Double Indemnity and The Usual Suspects, the opening scenes feature a dying man being given a cigarette or smoking. The outfit that the man was wearing as he shot the man on the boat in the opening scene is very similar to the outfits worn by the men in the start of The Killers. The themes of crime and murder are very prominent within this film, and the sombre mood of fatalism is twisted in with some humour to capture and hold the audience till the end, so when the final twist hits, it leaves the audience in shock and confusion. Memento, 2000. A story of a detective with short-term memory loss solving the case of his own wife's murder. The visuals are gloomy due to low-key lighting, and the settings are urban and grimy with a pessimistic sense of realism. 7, 1995. Could be considered as a neo-noir due to its sheer, depressing, relentless and dark cinematography, supported by gloomy weather, heavy rain, and grim opening titles. The mood of the film is pessimistic, visually through the use of low-key lighting, and within its plot, fatalism and death is a prominent theme within this detective story. So that's all you need to know about film noir. Thank you for watching my documentary. I hope it gave you some insight into what film noir is and how it can be identified. Till next time.
Shut me down.